at the end of September, I found out that there was a mass growing in my uterus. Having already survived cancer once, my mind immediately went to the worst, thinking that either the cancer had returned and spread, or I was dealing with a completely new cancer. This is the story of the symptoms, tests, and doctor visits that I had to go to figure out what exactly was growing in me. And really quick, if you're new here, my name is Jelena, and I was diagnosed with stage 3 rectal cancer in 2016. Now let's dive into this story. So it all started on Sunday, August 17th. I started experiencing some severe abdominal cramping. It was really bad, like the worst menstrual cramps that you could have. I was almost doubled over in pain, not quite, but it was bad enough that I was supposed to play tennis that afternoon. And I was thinking that morning, how in the heck am I going to play this tennis match? So I almost called in and said I couldn't do it. But I waited until the afternoon, until closer to match time to see how I was feeling. And they started to ease up. So I did go and play. But the cramps were still kind of hanging in there, but more like a 2 or 3 on the pain scale, not like a 6 or 7 like they were earlier in the morning. Tuesday, August 19th, spotting started, which I haven't experienced any spotting since I started cancer treatment back in 2016. I'm in early menopause, so I'm on hormone replacement therapy. And when I was put on it, the doctor said, if you ever experience any type of bleeding, call the office right away because you shouldn't experience any, and we need to get to the bottom of what's causing it. When the bleeding continued on the 20th, I started calling doctors' offices because I was in between doctors. My regular doctor I had last seen in May. She left, and so I had no primary care physician at the time, and I didn't even have a gynecologist. So I started calling gynecologist offices because I assumed that's where they would refer me, since that's where the bleeding was coming from. There are 5 offices of gynecologist practices in town that are within my hospital system. So I started calling the first couple that were near my house. They both had long waiting lists. It was going to be 3 to 6 months before they would even call me back to schedule me for an appointment. By the time I got to the 3rd office, they also had the same story. It was going to be 3 to 6 months before they called me for even scheduling an appointment. I just broke down on the phone with the person and was like, what am I supposed to do? I'm experiencing bleeding, and everything that I know says something's wrong. I'm supposed to see a doctor right away when this bleeding starts happening, but I can't get in anywhere. So she said, oh, well, that sounds like, a more urgent case. We can get you in a little bit sooner. So I got scheduled for September 16th. Still 2.5, 3 weeks away, but much sooner than 3 months away. So the bleeding that started on the 19th, it continued until the following Monday, the 25th. Then it stopped. But 3 days later, the cramping started up again. That Friday, the bleeding started again. It continued until September 4th, then stopped. Then it started again on the 6th, on the 10th. So it was kind of off and on. But then by the time my appointment came around on September 16th, I wasn't bleeding at that time. I wasn't experiencing any cramping either. When I went in for that appointment on September 16th, the doctor did an exam. She ran a couple of different tests, including a pap smear. And when she was looking around, she didn't see anything that immediately was throwing up red flags that would be causing the bleeding. So she ordered an ultrasound test for me to go in and get a better picture of what was happening. So the ultrasound is scheduled for September 30th, about 2 weeks later. I go in for that ultrasound first thing in the morning. They do 2 different kinds of wands. They have the one where they're looking from the outside of your abdomen, and then they also have a wand that goes into the vagina. So they've got 2 different viewpoints from the ultrasound. It took about a half hour or so to get all of the pictures that they needed, and then they sent me home, said it would probably be a day or 2 before I got the results. Well, turns out I got the results before lunchtime that day. I got the email saying my results were ready to view, but that the doctor hadn't looked at them yet. But of course, I have to look at them. So I go in, I open up the results, and it says that there is a mass in my uterus and it has potential vascular activity. So I freak out. My mind immediately goes, crap, are we going through this again? Is it cancer again? And the doctor hasn't viewed it, so I just have to impatiently wait and see what she thinks. It took a couple of days before I heard back from my gynecologist or heard anything from her. And she said, okay, we've got your results. We'll go over these when you come in for your appointment on October 13th, which I had scheduled when I left the appointment on September 16th. She wanted me to just get a schedule or get an appointment on the schedule a month out to give me time to get the ultrasound, get the results, and then go over them at that appointment. So since she didn't have any other tests she wanted me to go in for, she had no other wards for me. She didn't feel like she needed to bring me in earlier. I tried to make that mean in my head that this wasn't anything to be concerned about. So I went in for that appointment on the 13th, and she gave me 3 different options. Option number 1 was to do an endometrial biopsy, which is where they would insert a thin tube into the uterus and suction out some samples to biopsy. There's no anesthesia that they can do, and it's pretty painful. Option number 2 was to do a saline infusion sonohysterography, which is where they inject a saline solution into your uterus and do an ultrasound that way. It is also painful, and there's not really any kind of pain medication they can give you, and it's uncomfortable. Or there was option number 3, which is to go in for a hysteroscopy at the hospital. I would be put under general anesthesia. The procedure would only be about a half hour, but they would go in, she would take out the mass and biopsy it all at once. She said options number 1 and number 2, we would find out what it is, but we would still most likely need to go in and get the mass taken out. So she was like, just cut out the middleman. Don't do option 1 or 2 because they're painful. Don't put yourself through that. Just do number 3 if you've had no issues with anesthesia before. Let's go in, put you out for a little bit, and take this thing out and get everything done all at once. We'll find out what it is and get it out of there all at the same time. So I chose option 3. So I got scheduled for that hysteroscopy for November 5th. Check-in was at 9:15 for an 11:15 procedure. I wasn't allowed to eat for 10 hours before check-in time, and I had to stop drinking any liquids 2 hours before because I was going to be put under. So, they have to be careful, make sure that you don't have anything in you to aspirate on while you're out. So the procedure was done at the hospital. So I had a regular check-in and then got taken back to the gynecological waiting area, and then went back to the surgical prep area to my own little room where I changed into the hospital gown and socks, had to take everything off except for that gown and the socks. Next, they placed the IV. The nurse, I don't know what happened. It bled quite a bit. So she tried cleaning it up and it just smeared blood all over my forearm. But it was in okay. They hooked me up to some fluids. Then she asks, all 9 million questions before, if you have any different health issues, if you get motion sickness. And I said, yeah, I do. If I read in the car or at an amusement park, if I'm riding a bunch of spinny rides or ones that go up and down a lot, I can get a little motion sickness. So she said, okay, we're going to give you a patch to put behind your ear, and that will help with the nausea. And I've never had one before, but some of my family members have issues with anesthesia and get the patch. So I was like, okay, I guess if you think I need it, I'll use it, but I haven't needed it before. So she grabbed one for me. The anesthesiologist came in, went over some stuff real quick and had me sign the paperwork. And then it was time for me to get wheeled back for my procedure, which happened around 11:30, so a few minutes late. So at 11:30, I got wheeled back to the operating room. They had me move myself from the bed that I was in to the operating room bed. adjusted the railings, got my IV adjusted. There was something dripping a little bit, so they tightened something on one of the things that screws. And then they put the heart monitor stickies on. And then the surgical nurse put an oxygen mask over my nose and mouth. The anesthesia then started going in, and the anesthesiologist said, "You might smell a little bit of the anesthesia." I smelled it a lot. It was really like rancid, chemical-y smell, which I've never noticed before for any of my other procedures. So I'm not sure if they used a different medication or what was going on, but it was nauseating. And then within 10 seconds, I was out. So thank goodness I didn't have to smell it for long, but it was gross for that 10 seconds or so. When I woke up in the PACU, the post-anesthesia care unit, I was still really groggy, but feeling okay otherwise. After about 10 minutes, I was awake enough that they wheeled me back to the pre-op room that I started in, and they started trying to get me to wake up, sit up, so that they could get me out of there. So when I got back to the pre-op room where I started, which had all my clothes and stuff in there, they took off the stickies, they took my IV out, and had me get dressed. I luckily brought a pad with me because there was blood on the bed and there was probably going to be some more post-op bleeding, so I made sure to wear that. And then after I got dressed, I was coughing a lot. And the nurse said, "Oh, it's probably from being intubated." I have never experienced coughing after being intubated. Have any of you? I always just get this sore throat. So that was really weird. Another really weird thing was I was experiencing nausea, even though I had that patch behind my ear that they had given me. So I don't know what they had done, but I was feeling pretty nauseous. So they gave me 3 barf bags to take with me. They sent my husband to get the car and wheeled me out and sent me on my way. Didn't really give me a chance to get my bearings at all. So the nausea, it just continued to increase on the car ride home. And about 2/3 of the way home, I couldn't hold it anymore. I threw up. Luckily, it all went into the barf bag. It wasn't super messy. And since I hadn't eaten anything or even really drank much, it was just like 50 milliliters that ended up coming out. And it was just all liquid. But after that one episode, I was okay for the rest of the way home. I still wasn't feeling great, but I didn't have to purge anything else. So once we got home, I was still kind of wobbly. John had to help me walk inside. We went to the kitchen to see if I wanted any snacks or anything. I still wasn't really feeling hungry at all, so he just gathered a couple of quick snacks that I could nibble on potentially. And I saw the bananas in the kitchen, and that plus some peanut butter sounded like a good snack that would be good for me when I finally got hungry, get some protein in me. So I asked him to cut up a banana and put some peanut butter on it for me while I went upstairs. So I went up, got in bed. He brought the snacks up and put them on my nightstand, and I was out. I slept for like a good 2 hours. So I was asleep until like 5 o'clock. I woke up. I still wasn't really feeling hungry, but the banana and peanut butter was like right by me. And it smelled good, so I decided I should just eat this because I haven't eaten anything all day. It'll help me feel a little better and help me kind of recover from the procedure. So I ate that, just kind of chilled out on the couch until we ate dinner at 7. I still wasn't hungry, but I wasn't feeling full or nauseous, so I decided I just need to eat and force myself to eat something. So we had dinner. And by normal bedtime, I was ready to go to sleep. So I went to sleep, no problem, even though I was napping until 5 o'clock. I still had some light spotting off and on for the next few days. The following Monday was the last day that I experienced any bleeding. I didn't hear anything from the doctor right after the procedure. Like, I didn't even see her. I did get some pictures of what everything looked like, but I didn't hear anything from the doctor. So I was assuming that meant that everything went well and things looked good, because I know after my colonoscopy, when things were not good, the doctor was there as soon as I woke up to talk to me about what was found. So I impatiently waited, and actually the next day at 11 o'clock in the morning, I got an email saying the test results were in. So here I am checking the test results. Results are ready to view. Benign endometrial polyp. Unremarkable squamous mucosa. Just a polyp, it sounds like. They put in 3 by 1 by 0.4 centimeters. Okay. Yay. I am so thankful that the mass ended up just being an endometrial polyp. I got a message from my gynecologist a couple days after the results came in saying, yes, it was just a polyp. No further tests or anything are needed. If you have any questions, let me know. So I asked, do I need monitored for future polyps? Do I need to do anything different because of this? And she replied and said, no, you don't need to do anything. If you start experiencing bleeding again, let me know. Otherwise, just continue with life as normal. I hopefully will have no more polyps that cause bleeding, but now I do have a doctor and have a good one that will investigate quickly and thoroughly what is going on if bleeding begins again. To find out more about the challenges of life post-cancer treatment, you can check out this playlist right here. Or this video here, YouTube thinks you'd really like from my channel. Thank you so much for watching.